So awkward. I don't know why, but there's a message I really wanted to share with you, and I had a whole other video planned to film for today, but I think sometimes it's just important to share what's on our hearts, because sometimes these transmissions and words can even save a life, potentially. And so I took a moment right before, I jotted down some notes, and I hope that this reaches you if it's something that your heart needs, and that you never feel alone in what you're going through in life, and that you know that you are so loved and what you want is possible. And I want to share parts of my story of how I got out of being, I would call myself a former functional depressed person, like functional depression, and highly anxious, and just, couldn't understand how to live the life that I wanted despite doing like all the right things. And I think sometimes people don't realize how many of us actually struggle, and it doesn't even show. Like, I was a very bubbly and happy person all the time. You would have a zero idea that I battled with some thoughts and really deep, dark emotions. And that's just the truth. It's like something I've realized. So I want to share with you a bit about my story, how I changed, how I managed to get to this place where I am literally joyful most of the time. Like, it's possible, and I want to share with you like how possible it is, and that if it's possible for me, it's possible for you too. So, very short, microscopic view of my childhood. Also, sorry, if we don't know each other, hi, my name is Atena, and on this channel we really talk about unconditional self-love and manifesting our dream reality, and this conversation could not be more necessary for some people, not everyone, but for some people. So some people being like my former self, to be super honest. I was born in Iran during a time of war, and that did a number on my nervous system, as there are many people who are born in very unfortunate circumstances, parents divorced, very harsh entry into Canada, which is where we currently live. At least part of my family does, and went from a very financially comfortable life to literally being on welfare, and my mom being younger than I am with 4 kids. And I'm skipping a lot of drama here, but it was hard. It was really hard. That said, I always still knew how blessed and lucky we were, because we were alive, we had each other, we were healthy, we were in a safe country. And growing up, I battled with a lot of thoughts. I couldn't understand them. Like, I never felt like my life belonged to me. I felt like constantly unworthy. I just noticed some differences, because my mom, despite the financial struggles, always managed to put us in private school without us paying for it, which, hats off to my mom. She is super resourceful. But like, I would see sometimes some of my friends, and it's not just because they were rich, but like, there was like different things. Like, I just noticed a difference in thoughts and stability of having maybe just a different childhood growing up. And I'll leave it at that for now, because we can go down many rabbit holes with this. And I think the first time I realized I felt different was really in university, when I sometimes had trouble getting out of bed, and I couldn't understand how some people lived. Like, I was like, how is everyone doing this? How is everyone living their life? Like, why is it so hard for me? Like, I don't understand. And I had a doctor at some point prescribe me this pill called clonazepam, which is a hardcore sedative, because I was having extreme anxiety. And because I grew up around prescription medication, I grew up around all sorts of seeing what medication does. And it's not, I don't have anything against it. I think sometimes it's necessary to have antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication. I genuinely believe that sometimes it's necessary. I just didn't want it for me because I felt within that it's not going to solve anything in the long run. And I saw it around me, even with friends who are on antidepressants and anti-anxiety. And I'm like, you don't seem that much happier to me. You seem stable, but you don't seem happy. And I want to say, like, I don't want to shame it. I just, like, there's a part of me that's like, is this really solving anything? Like, it is in a moment, but long term, I'm talking like decade wise, right? Not in the immediate moments where it can be very life-saving. And anyways, I continued with life. I was like, maybe I just need to become more successful. Maybe I need to make more money or travel the world. And October 2015 is when all of that changed, because I had begged God 6 months prior to interrupt my life. I begged him. I said, please save me from myself, because my drinking and substance abuse was just getting worse. And at this point, I had graduated university. I had a real job with real responsibilities. And I was like, I can't continue like this. And literally, my prayers were answered the week after I was sent to the Philippines for 4 months, which was like the hardest 4.5 months of my life. And upon return on October 2015, my life completely changed. My mom was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and up until that point, I really relied on my mom for every type of emotional stability. And that's just, by the way, not a good thing to do. If anyone is like that, please learn to manage your own emotions. It is not your parents' job, and it's not healthy for your parents. It's not healthy for you. So when my mom was literally about to die, and she blissfully survived, it changed everything, because I saw her life be kind of ripped out from under her. And our dynamic changed a lot during this time. And I realized also, with my own habits of drinking and, abusing certain substances, I wouldn't live. Like, I can't, like, I was like barely 30. I'm like, I literally am not going to live if I continue down this path. Like, I don't know how else other people, like, I just, like, again, the question of how do other people do it? Like, that's something I ask myself frequently. And I made really intense changes in my life at that point. And I decided on something because at that point I experienced success, I experienced travel, experienced a lot of things. And I realized that the one thing that I don't know is how to love myself. I have no idea. I think I do, but I don't. And I feel like God just really spoke to me in that moment and said, learn to love yourself as I do my child. Like, unconditional self-love became my sole focus. It was my only New Year's resolution for several years, and it's still a big part of my focus. And this is what I practice and preach and teach, and changed my career path for this, literally. But at that time, I didn't know. And so I began to take some really big steps. And this is where conscious manifestation became a part of my life, because manifestation, at the end of the day, is a very self-focused practice. It tells you to regulate yourself. It gets you to pay attention to yourself in a different way. And when you combine that with a method of service, so for me, it's teaching it. It's teaching how to love yourself. And you focus on yourself and you get out of yourself, right? It will change your life. And it didn't happen overnight, though. I just want to say it took me a good 6 years to really get out of depression and anxiety. And I still have moments, but it's very, very different. And I would say in the last 2 years is the biggest changes. And I'm going to share what I did and what happened. So when I decided to really learn to love myself, it took me a good 6 months of going to therapy for my substance abuse, to reading self-esteem books, to learning different healing practices, like doing inner child meditations and doing all these things. And then eventually I changed my career path to focus on this. And I think that anyone who has a significant amount of mental health challenges, you have to focus, like, you have to find a way to focus on this. Like, it has to be a part of your life. It doesn't have to be a career like I made mine, but like, it has to be a part of your life. I genuinely believe this, because some people don't need it. Like my husband, for instance, doesn't need to read self-help books. She doesn't need it. I do. I need to be plugged into communities. I need to be plugged into these things. And so I met my husband actually 6 months after I did all, like, I began to really genuinely learn to love myself. My self-esteem really rose up, and I believe I became more of a match for what I truly desire and deserve. And God was like, let me also show you through human connection what you can achieve. And I met my husband, and our relationship, I will say, for all the times people say, be independent, be self-sufficient, which is, I was really hyper independent and self-sufficient. And learning to love another human and letting them also love you for you and growing with that relationship will be one of the biggest, for me anyways, was one of the biggest teachings of life. Because to receive his love, I had to learn to also love myself. I had to learn to be vulnerable, and to manifest the next step, you would say, of my reality. Again, I had to learn how to be safe within, how to open, how to receive. And life, like, genuinely just started to become better. Especially when the career path changed, we got married, we had an amazing honeymoon. My husband gave me a gift I had never received, which was 5 months, a 5-month honeymoon. I know that sounds crazy, and sometimes I think about it and I'm like, so blessed, And those 5 months changed my life, because it was the first time in my life that I didn't feel the pressure of having to produce. And he said, do what you want. Like, if you want to work, because it's 5 months, right? Like, we're not going to just chill at the beach for 5 months, even though we were at the beach. But he's like, if you want to take some time off, take some time off, like do you. And it was the first time in my life that I didn't have all that pressure of life. And that's the moment where I remembered that as humans, we are worthy simply for being. You are worthy simply for being. And I created a meditation from that moment, and it's still one of the most popular meditations on this channel. I'm going to link it below, because it is a game changer. And things just went more from me feeling like my whole life I was from survival state to being more in I can actually focus beyond survival at this point, because at this point I knew how to regulate my nervous system. I knew about subconscious mind, did a lot of hypnotherapy, Reiki energy healing, and I began to just get closer and closer to God. What I realized, for me anyways, and this is the last thing I'm going to share about my story, and I want to share then about you, is that I really had to become very disciplined in a lot of things. Like, I didn't understand things like I had a hormonal imbalance like PMDD. No one really talks about it, but it's literally like a crazy hormonal imbalance that some women can have, that is like giving a microphone, like a loud microphone, to all of your deepest, darkest doubts and putting them on blast. And no matter how much work I did on myself, there were still some very dark thoughts. And so I took extreme measures. Like, I'm going to share the video below where I did 5-MeO-DMT, which is an crazy psychedelic to do. You feel like you're going to die. You really do. And then you come back to life. And that's the moment where ending my life as an alternative to my pain ended. And I want to share that because I think that, like, again, a lot of people don't talk about how many thoughts sometimes one can have. Like, you have no idea, like, someone is smiling, but like in the back end of their mind, they're thinking like, this is too painful. How can I end things? That psychedelic journey changed my life. Then I realized I need to quit drinking alcohol. Like, alcohol is a huge depressant, it's a poison. If you have mental health issues, you should just not drink alcohol. Cut that shit out of your life. Then I began to make massive changes to my diet because, again, with the hormonal imbalance of PMDD, I was like, I can't be vegetarian. I need to eat meat. It changed my life. And again, and then it started having ripple effects until one day I woke up and I'm like, oh my gosh, is this how people live? Like, is this how normal people live? Like, I don't like to use the word normal, but you know what I mean? Like, is this how, okay, this is how everyone else is living? man, I wish I had a freaking manual for this shit. And what I want to share with you is, if you're going through these episodes of really thoughts that you're wondering, how do other people live their life? You're not the only one. And you can do a lot of this work alone, like reading books and stuff, but to definitely get into communities and get with people that will help uplift you. And there's a training we did actually inside my community. It's free to join. I'm going to link it below. There's a training that I did that this is the part I want to highlight for you. What I wish I understood when I first started this journey, or even when I was first recognizing that I'm suffering from depression, is that our nervous systems are built within the womb of our mothers. And so if your mother was highly in stress, you are going to have a nervous system that's going to respond to that stress in a different way than someone who didn't have that stress. And, there's a lot of science about epigenetics, how even like your father's sperm and everything, your mother's, your grandmother's, your great-grandmother's, like there's a lot of things that go into who you are. It's not just the programming that happens after, it's before you're even born. And then there's the programming that happens for the first 7 years of your life that shapes how you perceive reality. And so fast track to wherever you are today, whatever age you are, you have to recognize that you, on any given moment, receive 11 billion bits of information. Your body receives 11 billion bits of information. It picks up on this. But you only really focus on an average of 50. And it's important to understand this because everything else you are scanning, deleting, and distorting. And when you really wake up to this, you'll recognize that there are moments you will see things, you will feel things, you will experience things, and you will think it's the ultimate truth, but it's not. It's the ultimate truth that you are programmed within your entire sense of self to believe is the truth. And if you can, for a moment, even for a microscopic moment, when you're having like a moment where you are feeling that depression, feeling that anxiety, recognize that this is a temporary experience that I'm having, that my human is having, but it's not the ultimate truth. And I think of one specific example, like my husband used to tell me all the time when I got really flustered and upset, Atena, it's gonna be okay. And I used to fight him. Like I would literally sometimes yell back, like, who are you to say this to me? No, it's not gonna be okay. Like literally like having a temper tantrum. And he was like, the first time was like, whoa, I don't even understand what just happened here. And like once I calmed down, I was like, I don't even understand what happened either. Like I really don't. But what I realized is that my whole sense of self, like my identity, my self-concept, was so tied with my certain traumas. And without even knowing, I was going into a victim consciousness. And I couldn't fathom for a moment that maybe this is wrong. Maybe the way I'm seeing it isn't the correct way. And it's not to say one way is more correct than not, but if a way isn't working for you and it makes you anxious and it makes you depressed, why not question it? And so over time, when he would tell me it's going to be okay, I was like, I don't believe it fully right now. But I also love this man. And he's shown me time and time again how much he loves me. And can I take a moment and borrow his perspective? And this can happen within coaching containers too, because I began to recognize this in different relationships. My clients receive this sometimes from me. I'm like, can you take a moment, put your guards down, breathe. Take a moment and recognize that you see life right now as you're programmed to see. The 50 bits that we each see in any given moment is microscopic to what is actually available. It is microscopic. And this isn't to get, again, overly frustrated with yourself. Like, because when I first learned this, I was like, oh my gosh, why can't I just like do like this and rewire and everything? And yes, doing hypnotherapy really helps. We did a self-concept challenge within my community, and we talk about this kind of information, which I genuinely believe saves lives. And like talking about this and setting intentions every single day, it changes, but you've got to also be patient. Be patient, and to surround yourself with the right people, the right reminders, and to really take your time. And this is why, honest to goodness, I believe that the devotion to unconditional self-love is life-changing. Life-changing, because in any given moment, so like in those moments when I would get upset with my husband, I'm like, is this moment bringing me closer to love, or is it removing me? And the answer is clear. Like, what would love do? Like, just ask yourself that question sometimes. What would love do in this situation, in this moment? Would love get angry, or would love take a moment, breathe, take some space, relax the vibration system, and then take another reflection, another perspective? Anyways, I feel like I could go on, but I just wanted to share that. And I hope this helped you, beautiful soul. Know that if you are struggling, please reach out for help. Know that you're not alone. The brain likes to pretend, the ego likes to pretend that what you're dealing with, sometimes you're alone, but you're not. You're not. And you are so loved. And even if your mind can't perceive it right now, know that it's not the ultimate truth. And until the next video, I am sending you so much love and sending you just a big virtual hug.